I'd like to call a regular Board of Education meeting to order on Monday, January 22nd, 2018. Please rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, Kelly, please.
Ms. Flynn? Here. Ms. Stewart?
Here.
Ms. Thompson?
Delayed may be absent, depending.
Mr. Witowski?
Excused.
Mr. Hussain?
Here.
Mr. Wolf?
Present.
Mr. South?
Here.
Ms. Gadsden?
Present.
Mr. White?
Here, and I'd just like to say I said delayed or absent, delayed or excused it should be for Georgia. Fire, please.
Emergency exits are at the back of the LGI.
I need a motion to adjourn to executive session to review the employment history of particular individuals, to seek legal advice from the school attorney, state law attorney-client privileges, and discuss collective bargaining for the CSEA.
Motion.
Nancy. Second by Kenya. I see Kenya. Comments or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. The board is expected to come back at 7:30. So we're going to start out with a workshop with Mr. Eric Wright, the Executive Director of Curriculum Instruction.
Good evening, everyone.
As he gives the hand signal.
I just want to say that I am excited this evening to present to you Ms. Leslie Tompkins, fourth grade teacher at J.B. Forrester Elementary School, and Ms. Bridget Giovanni, kindergarten teacher at South Avenue Elementary School. I'm excited for two reasons. One, because normally when it's time to present ELA curriculum, it's either Ms. Danzero Rumley or myself that's up here presenting, but this evening we have two additions. But I'm even more excited because, you know, our curriculum teams, you know, K-5 have done a wonderful job thus far in planning, you know, the curriculum that's going to be presented here today. And they have the opportunity to share the work that they've been doing, so that makes me even more excited. It's been a long process. We started this work back in February of last year at our Professional Learning Day, and it started from scratch. And we're at the point now where each grade has about 3 to 4 units completed. We're hoping to have at least 5 to 6 completed by the end of the school year. So, you know, with that being said, I don't want to take up any more time. I want to have our ladies present to you this evening. We'll start off with Leslie Tompkins first.
Hi. So I'm Leslie Tompkins. I teach fourth grade at J.B. Forrester. I started teaching fourth grade in 2000. And my favorite story to tell about that is I was like 24. I'm all excited. I go into the room, and the teacher had left me. She had retired. She left me a single sheet of lined loose leaf paper, and on that it said reading, and then like topics and math topics, science topics, social studies topics. She's like, "This is your curriculum," and literally I was like, put it into the protective sleeve, and I use that forever. I was like, oceans, check, and I got it, And then over the years, as I started working with the other schools, I was we're working on this, and they're really, we don't do that. I was like, what do you mean you don't do that? It was one of those things it was like, what do you mean we don't all teach the same content, or not necessarily the same way, but the same things, and so. That was always one of my passions. I used to joke, especially with Mr. Wright. I used to say, just so you know, I'm going to take off a year because I kind of want to pull everything together and do my own thing. Would joke around about it. Mm-hmm. Because over the years we've been given so many wonderful resources, but I always wanted the time to be able to pull from this, pull from this, pull from this, put it together, and make it fit without having 18 different parts that didn't mesh. Does that make sense? So we were given that opportunity finally. So in my curriculum team, I work with Lisa Biersack at South Avenue and Liz Roach at Sargent. They've been working in fourth grade longer than I have, so we've been together 18 years. They've been longer. And then Monica Taylor at Glenham joined us, and she taught fifth grade, so it's nice to get that fifth grade perspective. So I'm going to show you the things we've made, our thought process while we've gone through it. Let me just put this. Got to get my little pointer. I was a little excited about it. Okay, so our mission was to take the ELA modules from Engage New York and kind of use them as the bones of what we were doing. And we wanted to pull everything together with the modules in order to meet the needs of our students in Beacon. Fourth grade is lucky in that the ELA modules go along with the social studies, our social studies content and the science content. You can go either or. So we decided that we were going to use the modules that go with our social studies content. Being a testing grade, and a testing grade where we also teach science, social studies was always lacking. So we decided that this would be a great way to get more content in there, but also have our ELA work done. And so for us, the four of us, it was important for us to be able to cover the social studies content while still reading quality literature, covering the New York State reading and writing standards, and incorporating the comprehension toolkit lessons that we've gotten. So we wanted to be able to pull everything from there together. Now the way over the years, we'd have social studies we had to cover, and so we did that. We had comprehension toolkit lessons that might teach a strategy for reading, and we would do that. And then we would have the reading and writing standards, and we always said, wouldn't it be great to take, literature from our content and be able to pull out the reading strategies to use, and then also work on that with writing. And it sounds so easy, and it's so not easy. It's just to do one lesson of that and be able to pull it all together takes a long time. And that's why I used to joke that I wanted to take a year off to be able to just pull it all together. Luckily, it hasn't taken a year, but the four of us work hard together. So each unit that we create and have created so far, it includes the teacher's unit of lessons. So each teacher gets a hard copy, but we also have it on Google Docs. A unit of the lessons with an appendix of the Black Line Masters. The kids get a student workbook. Then we have a smart notebook copy of it, so that way the teacher can teach using the smart board while they work on their workbook. And what I love about this is because it's the four of us working on it, we always have a Google Doc going, so that way teachers can provide feedback. Oh, lesson 2 worked out well. I like how we did this. Let's try that again. Or, you know what, in lesson 5, my kids were so not into doing this and that. Maybe let's think if there's another thing we can do. So it's a working document. Whereas if this was just kind of handed to us, we wouldn't be able to do that. So we really appreciate that aspect of it. So this is just a sample of one of the lessons that's in our unit. So if you take a look, the focus, pointer, because it's an ELA curriculum, our focus is mostly what that strategy is, what skill we're learning. And for this one, it's inferring meaning. The content that we're working on is Iroquois, the Iroquois Native Americans. So what we did is we found the toolkit lesson or lessons that had to do with inferring. So we have our toolkit, and we refer to that so the way the teacher can go back, look at this, and say, okay, this, I see what they're doing here. But we have now taken it and put it together with social studies content and the modules. So that way you're not using the text they give in here, but you're using a text that will go along with. And then we reference the module from Engage New York, so that way the teacher can then go in and look and get the gist of what the module was that lesson was from the beginning and what we've adapted from it. And then we list the standards that are being addressed in each lesson, the text that's being used. We love that it's real text, so it's, real books that we're using. And then we, spell it out, but still give a lot of room for the teacher to own the lesson and do what works best in the classroom for them. We write out the exit tickets that kids can use to show that they're learning, because then we can use that, okay, we need to go over inferring a little bit more, from there. So this is just an example of one lesson. Each lesson is definitely not done in a day. So this particular one was 2 sessions, but it could be 5, 6 sessions. So the lesson is just like the big thing that you're doing. This is an example of the student workbook. This is just 1 page, but to show you that we use the graphic organizers to go along with. So for this one, the lesson was main idea and supporting details. From there, we were drawing inferences, and then using those inferences and that new knowledge to answer the essential question that was throughout the entire unit, which was how are natural resources and community living vital parts of the Native American way of life. So in that way, we were able to focus on the Native Americans and the resources and all the content that went along with it, while using our ELA skills to be able to do this, writing paragraphs, writing essays, and then also using the toolkit lessons. We had to infer, we had to do main idea, we had to use nonfiction text features in order to navigate the text. And so it was like so much bang for the buck, whereas before that would have been 15 different parts throughout your day. So what we have so far that we've done is units 1 and 2 were kind of combined. We were going to start off with Native Americans, start off with a bang, but then we realized that we live in reality and that it takes a long time in September to go through rules and procedures, building a classroom community, building systems to make your day run smoothly. And so we kind of put together a unit that went along with it's the book, The Keeping Quilt by Patricia Polacco, beautiful book. And so along with that, we created a classroom quilt. They each made their own quilt squares to build the community. So we were kind of like getting started with our ELA lessons, but forming our family first. Then it went into Native Americans. Right now, we're in the middle of the Colonial Life unit. We are in progress of writing the Revolutionary War unit, and then Unit 5, we're not sure yet. It's to be determined. But I was just telling Mr. Wright that we are like in awe, because here, where are we, in January? And in the near future is the Revolutionary War. And our big joke is on the last day of school, we're always like, all right, kids, America won. We're a country. Now go have a good summer, because we don't get anywhere near that or get past it at all. And so, I've never in my life gotten this far in social studies. And so I wanted to say thank you. Our 4 building principals have been great in letting us have, random days to be able to work on the curriculum. But definitely a big thank you to Mr. Wright, because he gives us the boundaries. He gives us the parameters and the expectations, but he also trusts that we're going to include and that we have the passion to be able to put all of that in there. And because of that, every teacher has been using this to fidelity, because it's just like, oh, wow, everything's covered at once, and it's like, you guys did it. It actually works. It's not somebody who's never been in a classroom before. So that's that. So I really appreciate the opportunity to be able to work on it and continue working on it as like a working document throughout. So that's it. Thank you.
So, thank you, Ms. Tompkins. Before Ms. Giovanni speaks, full disclosure, I must tell you, in February of last year at our Professional Learning Day, I had this great idea of what we were going to do to bring all of those resources that Ms. Tompkins just discussed, how we were going to bring it together. And the idea was presented, to the curriculum team. Just imagine 24 teachers sitting in a room, and you explain, what your thoughts were to move us forward in terms of curriculum. And I thought that everyone would be excited because of the fact that over the years we kept hearing, what do we do? Is it going to be Stephanie Harvey or is it going to be the ELA modules? And so I thought I had it all taken care of, but this is the reason why you always listen and work with people. You don't make decisions alone. I went into that meeting, thought everyone was going to be cheering, and there were some unhappy campers in the room. And so I didn't realize to what extent until I went back into the room and I was speaking with the facilitator. And I said, okay, I want to speak to everyone after lunch. So I spoke with everyone after lunch. There were still some unhappy teachers in the room. And so we gave the teachers an opportunity to share with us, some of their unreadiness. And there was one teacher in particular that was adamant about one thing. In hindsight, I forgot about the fact that for our K-2 curriculum from the modules, it was all listening strands. And if you know anything about listening strands, for some reason, there was no writing in the books. So kids weren't having the opportunity to see words. And so Ms. Giovanni kept saying to me, well, how are we going to use the curriculum? She wouldn't say why, but how. She thought that I was focused on that and I just was going ahead with it anyway, but it totally slipped my mind. So at our session where we broke a session a couple of weeks later where we broke it down to by grades, we still was in this debate. And Ms. Giovanni and her team still unhappy. And finally, she came out and said, there are no words in the modules. How are we going to use this? You're going to buy books, right? That's all she kept saying. You're going to buy books, right? You're going to have to let us buy books. And I was just thinking, of course, educators always want new material. But then once she told me there were no words, it made sense. So then her phrase became, remember what you said?
What did I say?
Oh, Mr. Wright, you finally have come to our side. And from that point on, things have really been great. As you see, Ms. Giovanni's here this evening, and at this point, I'll just give her the opportunity to present.
So that is very true. But Mr. Wright and I are friends now, and he listens. It's good. And we have plenty of books in our classroom, so thank you for that. So there goes my introduction now. He kind of blew it for me. But so I'm Bridget Giovanni, and I teach kindergarten at South Avenue. And I am part of the district-wide curriculum ELA committee member. And as you said, we've been meeting for well over a year now, including this past summer. And the goal was how are we going to incorporate the Steph Harvey toolkit into the Engage New York curriculum, which on our level is very different than what the older grades do. And the Engage New York curriculum that we have been using, as Mr. Wright has said, is a listening curriculum, which so was a challenge for us to incorporate the Steph Harvey because that is putting books in kids' hands. So once Mr. Wright saw the light and came over to our side and purchased books for us, we're able to do that now. So the premise of the Steph Harvey on our level is that kids need books in their hands. They need to be looking through the books, talking about the books, gathering information, and using their background knowledge, merging it with new information, which is synthesizing, and responding to that new learning for deeper understanding through turning and talking, writing and drawing, and making connections. Steph Harvey says that you can never have too much looking through books and too much talking. We need much more of that in the primary grades, so that's what we've been trying to do. So Kindergarten at South Avenue has put together a video so you can see some of these things in action. about a snowman. Anybody add to that? Like, and where do you think the story might be happening, Layla? It's in the winter. What makes you say that? Oh, so use your picture clues. You could see a snowman. Jackson, what were you saying? What are the characters? The characters going to be about a snowman and two kids. The most perfect snowman. Elliot was thinking about how he was heartbroken. He thought Elliot and oh, so you said you're acting devious? That's a vocabulary word. I'd like to tell me. Michaela, what were you thinking about? You were ecstatic when the girl gave him the big dress and carrot nose? Like, the most perfect snowman out of the wall. So those these numbers, Christopher, wanted us to dig deep inside our brain, dig deep and tell us what was the lesson. We wanted to teach us a lesson in this story. What was the story really about? What does it mean, Jeff? Nice job. What's in the second box? Go ahead and draw a picture about what is the lesson of the story. Thinking, what was the lesson of the story? What did this author, Chris Britt, want us to learn from the story? Repeat. So the story, you're saying the lesson was about sharing? Nicely done. Ask you to give this cycle teacher, what happened in the story? What does the author tell us? What happened in the story? Sophia? Sophia? Yes, in the beginning that snowman was lonely, wasn't it?
Yesterday, our class made a thinking chart with their prior knowledge on snow. All the students from the class contributed and gave their ideas of what they know about snow. Now it's time to stop and talk about what you were just thinking about from the nonfiction text. Go ahead and begin. Everyone should be finishing up their sketch. Remember, our sketch is just a quick drawing about what we were thinking during the book, and I'd like some people to share after I share mine. Zaire, what did you draw? You drew a snowman with legs because you made a connection to something you did during this. Okay, everybody, I have given all of you either a book about snow, a book about snowflakes, a book about animals in winter, or you're sharing with a buddy. You're sharing with a buddy. So right now, everybody's job is to do a picture walk and look through your book, either by yourself or with your partner, and see what you notice or what you're thinking about while looking at the book. When you think about something in particular, maybe that's what I want to write down on my sticky. What's happening in that picture? Little boy's building a snowman. Zaire, what did you notice about snow with your book? Our thoughts and what we noticed about snow after listening to a nonfiction text. We have a table of contents, and does anyone remember what it is? Raise your hand if you can tell me, what does a table of contents tell us? So if we wanted to know what are snowflakes, it tells us what page we can find that information on. Remember, while I'm reading, think about what you're
So it's like the underfunded state or jail. So why is it the same person? You're an ugly pumpkin. And then she'll find me what happened. And then he finally found his family, right? Buster. Remember, you're going to give me a word to describe Buster someplace in the story, and then you have to give me evidence to show that's how we felt. I said, who has a vocabulary word to tell me? Lisa. Okay, well, let's get started. There's so many books to choose. Get on board, you just can't lose. Books expand your mind, it's true. Reading books is good for you. I love reading.
So that was just a little glimpse into our kindergarten curriculum, merging the Steph Harvey with the Engage New York topics. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Giovanni. So as you see, our students throughout the district, they're really learning, and it's a testimony to the hard work of our teachers, throughout the district. I just want to talk about next steps. So we're continuing the planning sessions that we've been doing throughout the course of the year. We have a couple of grades coming together over the next few weeks. Then on our professional learning day, we have some out-of-the-box thinking that will take place. In preparation for our professional learning day, over the next few weeks, we have about 3 teachers that will be having lessons videotaped so that it will be shared on our professional learning day. And the goal of this is to have teachers share what it is that's actually taking place during their curriculum sessions or their actual lessons. What's important though is that we begin to have our teachers share in this process. We have teachers coming together and planning, but we need to make sure that the work that we're planning is being implemented not only with fidelity, but that what it is that is being taught during the lesson is in alignment with the goals of the lesson. So what I mean by that is that if teachers are actually planning these lessons, setting goals, we want to make sure that during the lesson, kids are able to meet those goals. And the way that you do that is by bringing teachers together for opportunities to discuss what it is that they're seeing during the lesson, and then having student work present just to make sure that students are meeting those goals. And if they're not, then there's opportunities to tweak what it is that are in those lessons. And then after that professional learning day in February, we'll have opportunities to bring the teams back together for curriculum revision. That piece is super important because at the end of the year, the goal is for us to have a published curriculum. All this work that's being done is being done so that we can have not only a working document, but a living document, something that we use that we can call our own. Remember a couple of months ago I said that we want to have our own Beacon City School District elementary ELA curriculum, and I think that we're well on the way to doing that. So with that being said, I would like to, thank the Board of Education for approving Stephanie Harvey return this year, because the work has been crucial, to helping us, facilitate what you see today. I would like to thank Dr. Landau for, allowing this work as well to continue, believing in the work that was being done, last year. I would like to thank Mr. Corderoni for being the money person. There are a lot of resources that have been purchased throughout the course of the year, and I know for a fact that's what keeps teachers happy. So thank you. And I would like to thank Ms. Danzaru Rumley for her support with all of this. That's the person who I sit down and brainstorm with, before we go to teachers to present some ideas and then hear from them. So I hope that, you enjoyed the presentation this evening, and I look forward to coming together, at the end of the year just to share, our published work. Thank you. Are there any questions you have for any of us?
I know that this is I wanted to ask the fourth grade. I know this is the first year that you're really able to incorporate your social studies curriculum, but I just wanted to find out in your planning sessions if you talk about the opportunities, especially as it relates to the Revolutionary War, for field trips around here, like New Windsor encampment or to Washington's headquarters, or any.
We're always talking about that. It's a matter of time and money, but we live in the heart of it. It's a Revolutionary War.
Mount Beacon.
I know, and I just watched that show Turn. Now I want to go everywhere. But, there's tons of. So can you just pay for it?
Yep.
I knew that was coming my way. But absolutely. Yeah.
Any other questions? Bill?
It's sort of a general question as far as the curriculum development. So you have it, you're busy creating common standards across, basically across the district on different grade levels on what needs to be taught. Has anybody looked at creating standards that go across the district in terms of testing and assessments? Is there any sort of requirements for there must be a minimum number of tests, or how do you grade so that you don't have disparities where one school is maybe it's 90% homework, 10% tests, and the other one is reverse, or anything like that to kind of get common assessments across the district?
Well, within their curriculum planning, they have been creating common assessments. Some of the assessments are coming right out of the modules, but then there are some where they actually tweak, so it is common across the district.
Okay. And is there, as part of creating the development, developing the curriculum, I know it's not always the best guide looking at the state tests, because sometimes they don't seem to match up with the curriculum, with their own curriculum. But did anybody look at any of the past historical state tests to make sure that what you're planning on teaching at least is matches up to what's been tested in the past that's under the current guides?
So, yes, we do. And that's the very short answer. But the long answer is that what's super important is that we look at strategies that need to be taught for kids to comprehend text. And when you do that, what happens is that that transcends whether it's a book that they're reading, an article they're reading, or testing. Because it's important that kids can really work within the text. And so we have not only the curriculum that's taking place, but then we've had opportunities to work with principals on things such as guided reading, so that we're working at students their independent level, and their and then also at their, when teachers work with those students, they're working at the instructional level, so that we can continue moving students toward the grade level standards. So when you do that, when you combine all of that, what happens is that children will perform better on tests.
And my last question is, in the future, do you plan on having a standing committee for any revisions? Because, I mean, you know, if the state changes their curriculum, which they probably will.
Yes.
Or if we find that, you know, that our students aren't doing well on the state test, and so you need to look at that. Or even in the case, I noticed since you had links back to the actual resource that you use every time they come out with a new version of the book here that we get, you might have to go back and at least make sure that you still got the correct links in there and everything. Is there planning on that kind of, you know, assessment and continuing revisions?
Yes. So we've started that process where, you know, we've had at least once this year a survey go out to all the teachers in the district where they have talked about GLOws and GROWs. And then the curriculum team used that for their planning. That will definitely continue. You know, that's why we were saying it's a working document, and I say it's a living document because we will always have the ability to tweak it. I would like to keep the curriculum teams for as long as possible, you know, so that they can help continue to guide that work. But yes, definitely.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you to Mr. Wright, your team. Wonderful examples. The kindergarten video was actually pretty interesting when they split up into groups. I couldn't hear anything that one of them said. I could hear all of them say something, so that was actually very interesting, and seeing that they're very engaged is good. The one conversation that I sometimes either see up in Albany or people come up to me or about curriculum is specifically about history, is whether or not we're making efforts to make them even more historically accurate or not. So it's something to keep in mind as, you know, I know you're doing a lot to improve the curriculum that you inherited, but definitely please keep in mind that we also want to make some of the content that we're teaching more historically accurate.
Yes. I think that you know what happens. That's another reason why we say it's a living document, because it gives the teachers, we've given them the creative rights to go in and make those changes, you know, as needed. And you know, each time that, you know, being that it's a Google document, it's shared with me, so I have the opportunity to see all the revisions that they make. Thank you. You're welcome.
Any other questions? No? Any? You can participate here if you want. All right. Thank you, Mr. Wright.
You're welcome.
All right, so I'd like to review the agenda. We do have a revision on 11.03D1. The date changes from February 5th, 2018 to February 6th, 2018. And that was for the effective date of it.
I'd like to add something to 10.
Go ahead.
The discussion on the board meeting with the city council.
For what?
The board meeting with the city council.
Okay, so that will be 10.02, Kelly. And it will be an open discussion, a meeting with the city council. Any other additions or revisions? Seeing none, we're going to move to student or school presentations. Seeing none, any parent groups?
All my things. Hi, everyone. Bear with me, I have a bit of a cold. My name is Lori Murhage. I'm here to present on behalf of the Beacon Arts and Education Foundation. It's been a little while. I wanted to update you on our goings-on. First of all, we are proud to announce that we are officially merging with BAM, the Beacon Advocates for Music, which is a new-ish booster club that began last year to support music programs here in our schools. We are in the process now of establishing our own 501c3, which is very exciting. We will be, Beacon Arts is right now our fiscal sponsor, and we will be leaving the shelter of their umbrella to create our own organization. We've added 5 new board members to our board. We're excited to grow our numbers and with that our ability to fundraise for arts and music in the district. So very exciting news. We've also developed a system. It's kind of a precursor to an official teacher grant program. That's where we would like to be ultimately. Right now we have created funding request forms, which we've distributed to art and music department heads. The idea is for the staff to communicate their needs directly with BEEF so that we can go ahead and allocate our donations to specific needs. This form could be used for programming, field trips, equipment. Really the sky's the limit. We hope to be able to distribute these to all staff eventually and encourage them to innovate and bring us their ideas to fund. We also came up with a form for tracking all of our orders and to make sure that we get the materials in the students' hands as quickly as possible. So our first round of requests did go out in November and were returned to us late in 2017. The requests we received were for the purchase of music learning materials. So Beacon Arts and Ed Foundation has decided to allocate our promised $5,000 donation. If you remember, this includes $2,500 in donations promised for the last school year, and again for this school year totaling $5,000. So we've decided to allocate our $5,000 donation towards these specific requests. So we received 4 requests from the music department. 2 are for Orff instrument sets, and 2 are for rugs for the music rooms at J.B. Forrestal and South Avenue schools. The total for these 4 requests was $4,590.21. So tonight we are presenting a check to the district for $4,100.02. For the bulk of the orders, we're still waiting on a second check from Beacon Arts. We will deliver that to the district later this week. They had a bit of a delay. Once we establish our own 501c3, that will no longer be a problem. So I'm going to present this to you tonight.
You give me the money. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. We're good for the other $488.
Do we want a Kodak moment there, Lori?
What's
We
that?
could do a Kodak moment.
Like,
and
take a
get
picture.
check, take a picture, and we could
And then you
publicize it.
threaten me that I better give the rest. We'll get it to you, I promise. Beacon Arts and Ed Foundation is also in the process of establishing a couple meetings with Principals Soltish and Sieverding in the coming month. We're going to be meeting with them in order to present them some ideas of programs we would like to bring to RMS and the high school before the end of the school year. So we're looking at assemblies that are art and music related and also have a social justice component. So we're looking at a few different things. We started by searching what BOCES offers and what other districts are doing, and we're kind of narrowing from there. And also reaching out to other members of our community. We think it would be wonderful to have a Beacon High School grad come and speak to the current students and talk about what they've been doing now and just the different things that that are important, we think, now, including the arts with the students. So I think that's all I have for Beacon Arts and Ed. So thank you for that. I'm also here to present for Sergeant PTO, so if there's no other parent groups, I will continue to stand here.
Hold on 1 second, Lori. I just want to
Yeah, please.
solidify for that part of the donation. We will have that accepted at the next board meeting.
I
It'll
figured
be
that
on there.
right.
So
I can just give it to the district, and then that'll go on your agenda for the next meeting, right?
Correct.
Okay.
I just want to make sure that was clear. Okay. Go ahead, PTO.
Should I? Okay. Sergeant PTO, here we go. This is the fun one. Okay. So I know that we haven't really made an announcement all year, so I wanted to update you guys on all of the wonderful things the Sergeant PTO is doing. My name is Lori Merhage. I am the newly minted president of the Sergeant PTO. So first things first, we're excited to say we've raised over $6,000 this year since September. And we've done a bunch of different things, so I'm just going to list some of the things we've done. As we always do, we hosted a meet and greet for incoming kindergarten families. I feel like that's a really important way to introduce people to the PTO and, kind of give the PTO a PR overhaul and let them know that everybody is involved in the PTO, moms, dads, grandparents, etc. And I think we're sowing some really positive seeds over at Sargent, so I'm proud to say that. We worked very hard, as we always do, on our Spirit of Beacon Day parade float, which is a really big community builder for us. We work on that every August into September. And sergeant parents, young and old, thank you, Anthony, have come and contributed to that. It's always nice to have a board member come and staple guns some cardboard for us. Thanks. We did our Scholastic Book Fair, as we always do, a couple times a year. We also did the Believe Kids catalog fundraiser, which was a really big success as well. And we are also presenting the Sergeant discount card, which is our amazing thing. They cost $10 a piece. They provide discounts at 15 different Beacon businesses. I, of course, have a stack that I would love to sell to all of you tonight. So find me. For $10, you can use this until November of this year, so that's a pretty good deal. And you can use it again and again. So it's got a lot of great discounts from various Beacon businesses. You can buy one from me, or you could go right on our website, sergeantpto.org, and buy one online, and we'll mail you the card. We did our Barnes & Noble Makers Fair again this year. It was our second year holding this event, and it was a big success again. We raised over $800, which is great, and all of those proceeds went toward the purchase of over 60 books and STEM materials for Sergeant's faculty. They provided us wish lists, and we were able to get them some things off the list. As we do every year as well, around Thanksgiving time, we hold a senior luncheon. Mrs. King, our second grade teacher and sergeant, chairs that event where we invite the seniors from the various senior centers to come, and we give them a very fancy lunch, and the kids perform for them, and it really is a wonderful event. We also hosted the Hudson Valley Shakespeare Festival performance for K through 5, and they loved it, from what I hear. We did a teacher appreciation breakfast right before the Christmas break, so the teachers could have some bagels while they did their Secret Santa. We also hosted 2 family fun nights in October and December. We're about to have our February family dance. That's on February 9th. Is that right? February 9th? Friday, February 9th. So come to that if you like to party. So with the help of a committee that included parents, Sergeant has also defined its math vision for the school. Do you want to hear what the vision is? It is to create a love of mathematics and for Sergeant students to become real-life math problem solvers and thinkers. So with that, the PTO is now actively working with Principal Archer to bring a math-related assembly in for the students. So believe it or not, there's some actually really fun-sounding math assemblies that we're looking into now. And we share all of this information with the PTO Collaborative. We're doing a lot with the PTO Collaborative this year, which is great. Everybody's getting on the same page and working together. I feel like the PTO Collaborative is kind of finally getting its legs this year, which is wonderful, and we're sharing a lot of ideas. So with that, upcoming events this week, I want to let you know about tomorrow night, Tuesday, January 23rd at 6:45. Dr. Landau will be doing his budget presentation and conversation. Over at Sergeant, we will be providing childcare for the National Honor Society, so come if you want to be part of that conversation. I know you're doing those all over, so. Then there's the big thing that's happening this week, which is Thursday, the 25th at 7 p.m. at Hudson Valley Brewery. We're having our first trivia night fundraiser, and you're all invited. There you go. Take one pass. You're all invited. Okay. The event is from 7 to 10. It features game show style trivia with buzzers and a professional trivia presenter who is also a local radio personality. His name is Smitty, that's all I know. Apparently he's great. Okay. Food will be provided by Barb's Butchery. So Barb is a Sergeant parent, which is lucky for us. And she has generously agreed to donate 25% of her profits to Sergeant for everything she sells that night. Also, John Anthony at Hudson Valley Brewery has been extremely generous. He will be offering drink specials with a portion of the proceeds going to Sergeant. So if you come, drink the special drink, and Sergeant will get $1 for every beer that's sold. And also he's providing gift certificates. We have tons of prizes. We have raffles out the wazoo. You're going to love it. 3 of our 4 elementary schools have teams already established, made up of parents who are intent on destroying each other with their trivia skills. The PTO has also sponsored a faculty staff team. We're proud to say we have a full team of 10 Sergeant faculty members. So that's very exciting. A word on the street, actually, is that our kindergarten and pre-K teachers crushed the high school faculty at a previous trivia event. So there's still time for them to regain their pride. There's still tickets available if they want to get in on this. We have prizes for winners. We're going to have a trophy even, and tickets are still available. So as the flyer says, you can go on Eventbrite to buy a ticket. They're only $10 a piece. And of course, it all benefits the PTO. I think that's it. Hit me up for these.
$25 advertising fee.
Let's-
Yeah.
Hey, sell, sell, sell. Thank you.
Alrighty. Any other parent groups? No one signed up for public comment? Is there anybody that wants to make a public comment? Seeing none, we're going to go to the superintendent.
Eric wants to make public
Are you serious?
What's happening? It's
Walk
quick.
fast, Eric.
It's quick.
Taking the floor, Mr. White, sorry. The honest, well, Eric Wright.
Just speak.
I failed to thank all of our teachers, K-5 elementary teachers, who have been working very hard in the classrooms this year. And I think that's super important because they have taken the work that has been done by the curriculum team, and they have been doing a great job. I also did not publicly thank our teachers who are here this evening for the work they have been doing throughout the course of the year. So thank you.
I want to see you get an Oscars. I think you would be so nervous about forgetting to thank someone. It would be pretty good. All right, moving on. Anne Marie's not getting up for a public comment, I hope.
No, I am not.
We're going to the superintendent's report.
Okay, I would like to say thank you as well. Leslie, you're talking about fourth grade reminded me of years ago when I taught fourth grade and tried to teach that way. Not to your level, but getting the content in there is so important. And Bridget, I want to thank you for pushing Mr. Wright to allow books to be part of instruction in kindergarten, or if I'm understanding all that correctly. I say thank you for that as a kindergarten parent as well, because I can really see the kindergarten curriculum making an impact on my own son. Also, we should mention if you do take part in a board workshop, you, as a teacher, get anything you want for the rest of this year. So field trips, more just see Eric. And he'll, what's that? But Eric did, when you mentioned field trips, Eric said yes, because we're really trying to push an idea of, like, if people have a good idea for field trips, we're going to find a way to do it. So please let us know and spread the word on that. All right, we're going to do our budget presentation of the evening tonight during superintendent's report. Before we get to that, just a couple of announcements from my end. One is the app, the Beacon City School District app is live and available on the iTunes and Google Play Store. I checked, and it is actually the #1 downloaded app on Liberty Street in Beacon. And but I was going to do this huge unveiling at the beginning of this week, and the weather sort of took precedence, I guess, so I had to delay it a little bit. So we'll do some more publicizing of the app. We will also work on improving the app. But the app is available. It is free, and it's one more method that we are using to communicate with everyone. So please check it out. And then I just also wanted to talk about Noah and Annie, our students here. So I just want to talk about this role briefly. It was pointed out to me late last week that there's a couple of things in New York, in the New York education law, that says a student ex officio member of the board needs to be a senior and needs to serve for only 1 year. And so, and there only should be one. And so you can see that we have an issue here because there's 2 students over there and they're both juniors. And so I want to talk about that for a second. One is, I feel that this isn't just about my feelings, but I want to throw those in. I think it's really important to have something that feels student-centered as an educator, and having just one student working with us as a board doesn't feel right to me. With other districts I've worked with in the past, it's always been multiple students. And the reason why I think that's more student-centered is they have a chance to talk to each other. in the sometimes, I hate to say it, but boredom of a meeting, they also have each other to maybe talk to during a meeting or text during a meeting. But it also gives them a chance to work together.
Matt, you didn't tell them that if they text, it's foilable.
Come on now. So they also have a chance to work together, and they've already started to do that by putting together a survey for all the students at Beacon High School about courses. So how we're going to deal with this moving forward is, and this was, I think, not how we began this a few weeks ago at the other board meeting, is we're not considering them ex officio members of the board. They are student advisors to the Beacon board, and that's how we'll move forward this year. So a student advisor to the board will be able to do a comment, and they will also be able to ask questions during board workshops. So that all being said, again, I'm so excited to have them both, and it's already helped me out greatly because at the community Martin Luther King Day celebration at Jefferson Baptist Church this past Monday, by the way, great event. We had many students enter the essay contest this year, more than ever before, so we were excited about that. But I got the chance to speak because the congressman did not show up. And so it goes from congressman to me, so I thought that was cool. But I got a chance to speak, and I was just kind of winging it because I didn't know I was going to speak. But I mentioned we have students working with us on the board this year, and just huge applause. Like the whole place just went crazy. And so I just thought, I am just saying that wherever I go now because it's awesome. But I think it's a real testament to us being a more student-centered board. It's a more student-centered district. So again, thanks for volunteering to do this and be our advisors this year and into next. Okay, so that being said, we are talking about the budget tonight. So I just wanted to go over the budget calendar again. And I am going to tweak this a little bit, and I'm going to verbally tweak it, and then we'll put it out publicly with those tweaks. So tonight we're going to talk about some of our parameters. We actually have some preliminary information tonight to share. And then we're going to be doing some departmental budget sharing in the future board meetings. One of the things that I think is really important with all of this is that we stop kind of being just year to year, and we're thinking bigger picture. So woven kind of throughout this budget process is going to be me and other staff members talking about long-range planning for the district. And I think the March 19th, where we say new initiatives, what I'll add to that is we also will be talking about big picture, long-range vision for the budget as well. So I'm not just coming up with that on my own. I know I've said this already, and thanks for the plug for the Sergeant PTO meeting. I'm going around, or Anne-Marie and I are going around to PTOs. We're halfway through it right now. We have 2 this week and 2 more next week. I also met with Beacon Arts and Ed and Beacon Advocates for Music last week. And we're basically doing a very short presentation and then just opening the floor to talking about short-term and long-range goals for the budget. We're going to be tapping into student interest with the budget with a survey. And we also are going to be having meetings, voluntary meetings, but meetings with faculty and staff, especially over the next few weeks, to do the same thing. What are short-term and long-term wants and needs for our school budget? When I take all that information in, also working with our administrative leadership team, that's when that long-range vision and when a lot of our initiatives for this upcoming budget, that's when it all starts to come together. We're doing this as, we're sort of building the plane as it's getting into the air, so it's not all going to be completely neat and perfect, but our goal by March 19th is that the board and the community has a really nice sense of what we're trying to put into this upcoming budget and also our long-range vision for the budget. March 12th, just to highlight the March 12th meeting, we'll be hearing about the budget for pupil personnel services, but we're asking all 6 of our principals to be in attendance that night. To talk about their class size recommendations for the budget. If we have new course offerings, especially at the secondary level, to talk about that, and to talk about any other budget items that they have that are worth talking about in the public meeting. And so we're excited about that part too. We're going to ask the principals to be a part of, we hope to do a second round of budget presentations. Those will be between April 9th and May 15th. We hope to to be invited back to PTOs and community groups to talk about the adopted board budget, to say what's in that, and our principals are going to help us with those individual PTO meetings with that presentation. And Noah and Annie are going to help us with how do we reach out to students with the budget process and do some presentations to interested groups of students too. So, you know, we're putting a lot of time and effort, and it's all extremely powerful for us to have people show up to these meetings and for people to just give us really honest and good feedback about things that need to be in the budget. We have amazing students in this district. We have a very vibrant and passionate staff and faculty and administrative team. But I want the same to be said of the systems that we have in this district. And I think having a really healthy, transparent budget process will go a long way for a great first step. So we're really excited to be rolling that out over the next few over the next few months, excuse me. And I'll say my one reminder again to the board. We might need an additional meeting between March 19th and April 9th. No matter how transparent or amazing this budget process will be, we still may need to talk about some issues. So just to sort of put that out there again, that we might be needing to have an extra meeting during that time frame. So that all being said, Anne-Marie is going to talk about some preliminary budget information, and it's kind of exciting to be having some of this so early. So
Yes.
Anne-Marie?
Yes, thank you. So just kind of a recap, and we talked some of this at the PTA meetings. What are the considerations this early on in the budget planning? And we usually start first with a conversation about tax cap, which I can give you a preliminary point of where we are. State aid, and I'll talk a minute about, we did get the governor's run and what that means for Beacon. And obviously we kind of wait until the end of March to get the legislative amount. I'm sorry, I still have a cold too, so. Enrollment and class size is always have to be looked at, our staff and personnel costs. So these are all things that have some considerations to make. So the tax cap. Actually, I did the preliminary conversation for the estimated tax cap, and right now it's at 3.8%, so I'm extremely excited about that because that is probably the highest it has been in many years. And I put two reasons why that is. The first is the allowable growth factor, and that's in the calculation, and at a later board meeting I'll actually go through and show you the whole sorted calculation. But I kind of wanted to start here. The 2%, when the tax cap came into being, the government, the state government, said that it would be either 2% or CPI, the lesser, and the CPI always for the last maybe 3 years has been less than 2%. This is the first time since the beginning of the tax cap it has been 2%, so you can raise the portion of the levy. So that's an important fact because it gives us more of a opportunity to increase the levy. The tax-based growth factor for Beacon, 1.0154. What that does is you take the levy from last year, you increase the tax-based growth factor, and you're actually raising the levy by $570,000. That is the highest it has been since the tax cap, and the definition of a tax-based growth factor is more properties going into online and the assessments, and so we've been preliminarily talking about that, but when you look at Dutchess County, you'll see that we have the highest tax-based growth factor, and I can give you more information about that. But that's a reflection of what's been going on in Beacon. Those two numbers in total equal $1.2 million. The 3.8 is about $1.4 million. There's a little bit of discussion on building aid, and that's why I'm saying it's preliminary and it's an estimate. One of the exclusions we talk about is for capital, so you take your principal and interest minus your building aid. There's some talk about some changing the way building aid is calculated. It might reduce the cap a little bit. It wouldn't be that much, so that's why it's still an estimate. The cap has to be filed by us to the state on March 1st, so we'll have another conversation prior to that. But this is good news for us, so we're happy with that. We're also happy with the governor's budget, which historically has not shown us this much of an increase. So for the governor's budget, we have an increase over last year of $450,000. Normally, when the legislature does their final budget at the end of March, it's much more than that, than the governor's. So we're being extremely hopeful. It's a 1.6% increase. The governor in his State of the State and his budget presentations was talking closer to 3%, but that's across the board. So we're at 1.6. So I'm kind of still hoping, that we can kind of squeak out a little bit more than that. So both of those things are good. The tax cap can be more, and the governor's budget looks right now by more. So we're in pretty good shape going into the beginning. So I don't want to be a downer, but these are the other things that we have to kind of think about in the budget process. So in ERS, Employees Retirement System, and TRS, Teachers Retirement System. So those are both pension costs. As you know, the biggest part of our budget is personnel costs because we have people and we have their benefits. So the retirement system is always a big chunk of what the budget should be. ERS rate is decreasing, which is good, except our payroll for employees' retirement is obviously less than teachers' retirement. Teachers' retirement covers all our certified staff, our administrators, central office staff, teachers. That rate is going up between 10.5 and 11 from 9.8. So that would be an increase. So to just kind of put it in perspective, the governor gave us $450,000 more in state aid as an estimate. And if we use last year's payroll numbers and we calculated the difference in teachers' retirement, it would be about $230,000 more. So yes, we're getting more in state aid, but we have to be careful about where the costs are. So we have to kind of keep track of what's going on with teachers' retirement. Health insurance premiums increased between 7.5 and 9.25. They were talking about 10 and 11% when there was a lot of things going on in the federal government about Obamacare. So I'm happy with these percentages because those are around what we had budgeted last year, so we're in good shape, and those are kind of doable. But those are things, all of those costs we have absolutely no control over, so we have to be a little bit careful going forward in the budget process. And my slide to be continued because you will be getting as much information as we get, and we will be passing it on as soon as we get it. But if you have any questions preliminarily now, I'd be more than happy to answer.
Oh.
Yeah, you gave when you talked about the ERS and TRS, you did talk about, from what that means from a dollar perspective. Do you have any idea for the health insurance increases, what that's approximately going to be in terms of, just dollars?
I don't yet. I will quantify that for the budget process because some of the contracts, the union contracts, are paying more into it. So I have to kind of calculate that as well. Because when we settled the teacher's contract, the percentage increased. So some of the contracts will pay more. So it's really the net effect. It's the insurance premium less what people are contributing, what retirees are contributing.
Okay, I'm just trying to see out of the $450,000 that we think we'll get, at least
it's
as a minimum,
yes.
How much of that's actually going to disappear right away because of forced increases?
Well, that's something that we have to really look at, and that's a good question because that could easily, the $450,000 could get eaten up by pension costs and health insurance. So we have to kind of be careful of that, going forward.
Any other questions?
Yeah, question. So in that budget schedule, we talked about some improvements to curriculum. Where on that budget schedule do you think we'll be talking about that?
Oh, you mean in this slide?
Yeah.
March 12th and March 19th.
Okay.
We'll have our principals for March 12th, and so we can be doing some of that conversation there. And then March 19th, we were part of the new initiatives. We were going to talk about PD and professional development and support of curriculum work too.
Like some of the STEM work that was discussed earlier, that'll fall under one of those dates.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is there a calendar on the website now, the budget calendar?
Just in the form of a slide. We'll put it on the budget part of the.
We'll put it on the calendar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Okay.
All right, we have committee reports, including board comments. Meredith. Curriculum. Right?
The curriculum committee is going to be on, our meeting was canceled due to snow, so we're meeting on Thursday, the 25th at 2:30 p.m. There is another Chevron meeting on, sorry, 31st, sorry.
31st?
Yes, and that is 5:30 PM. That is a meeting, a committee meeting that is open to the public, where they're going to be discussing a report that has been prepared, I think based on all of the design charrettes and the latest environmental news. And then that report, after going through this committee process, will be shared publicly at a February meeting. But I don't have that in my.
Do you have a location for that, Meredith?
At the Slater Firehouse in Glenham. I also, with Kristen and Bill and Matt, we attended the breakfast with legislators on Saturday. Actually, it should have been a breakfast with representatives of the legislators, because except for Dee Dee Barrett, it was all representatives. But it didn't matter because it was mostly presentations by school districts, and it was really interesting, talking about the income gap and the technology gap and the small city schools lawsuit. One thing that was brought up that I think we need to be very aware of, I'm sure the Facilities Committee already is, but one presentation was about how delayed their capital projects have been because of the state education department, building department, and how long it takes to get your drawings approved. So there are some bills that are in process to, actually no, I don't know if there were any bills for that, but they were basically saying that department is short, I think almost by half in terms of their employees, and begging for them to replace those people so that can be moved forward. I also just wanted to, I don't know how good everyone is about reading all the NISBA email, but there is a webinar tomorrow from 12 to 1:30 that's an analysis of the executive proposed budget that I'm going to try to listen to. And the only other thing I want to mention was that today the high school band visited the middle school to tell the middle school band that they should join the high school band. And I thought that was awesome, and I hope there's more of that happening. Just kind of spread the word of good things that are happening, from elementary on up. So,
Thank you, Anthony.
Thank you. So I do apologize for missing the last meeting. I was in Puerto Rico for work, and towards the end I did get homesick, so I came home to some snow. That's okay. The Technology Committee meeting is coming up on Tuesday, June 30th at 4 p.m. And
Not June 30th.
January 30th, sorry.
Just your Puerto Rico weather.
Yes, it's very warm. The January 30th at 4 p.m. The next Diversity Committee will be February 8th at 8:15 at the district office. This last, was it Tuesday? I forgot now. No. This last week was Thursday. Yes, it was. So I participated with J.C. Calderon to inaugurate the ACE program. It's ACE stands for Architects, Construction, Engineering, and it's a mentor program for high school students. And there's about a dozen Dutchess-based architects, contractors, and engineers who are willing to mentor local high school students, introduce them to the field. And this Sunday we're going to go visit a site over in Main Street next to City Hall, and then start the creative processes there. I'd like to thank Cecilia and John Sieverding for helping us bring the program to the Beacon students. This is the inaugural program for Dutchess County, so hopefully work out the kinks and come back next year as well. There are also scholarships associated with this program, so it's all good stuff. That's all.
Great. Bill?
Thank you. I also attended the Dutchess County School Board Association's meeting with the legislators. There was about 30 people there representing all of the districts in Dutchess County that are members of the association. As was mentioned by Meredith, there out of the 6 legislators who were invited, 1 actual legislator showed up. That was Dee Barrett. The other 4 sent representatives. I know that at least one of ours, Assemblyman Scatatos, had a forum on opium addiction in Newburgh later that day. I don't know what the reason was. The other ones couldn't be there, so I would have rather had our legislators there themselves rather than representatives. The main point of it was for them to listen to the presentation from us on the concerns. So I mean, from that perspective, it was okay to send representatives, but it would be nice to get feedback, which we couldn't get from their representative. Dee Barrett did get up and talk a few times, so that was good having that. But she's not one of our district representatives. But it was a good meeting, and it was a full room. So I'm hoping that next time that they have one of these events, that our representatives will look at this event and say, okay, it was very well attended, and therefore maybe we should come ourselves rather than sending our representatives. Let's see. At the last board meeting, we heard from some members of the public who are parents of homeschool students. We also did get a letter from them, and that brought up a couple of concerns I just want to bring up. One is that they mentioned that the Board of Education had erroneously voted to allow homeschool students onto sports teams. I don't remember us doing that. I went back and I looked at our minutes, and I couldn't find where we had approved a policy that actually did that. So I think that we need to correct them on that, or unless somebody else can do the research and see if they can find an example where we actually did vote on a policy that allowed homeschool students onto sports teams. I don't remember that. So I think we need to correct it, since it's out there in the public. I think we need to correct that, especially since it's illegal to allow them on sports teams. The second thing is that it was also mentioned that some of these homeschool students actually got into sports teams as well as onto some other extracurricular activities. That brings up another concern, which is our procedures. We're talking about students who are not members of our school community in terms of our actually being present at our middle school or high school. So I'm not sure how they get onto a team. I'm assuming somebody's checking that people are eligible, because there are real ramifications in our sports program if we're allowing ineligible students to play. I mean, you could have games that you previously won or forfeited. So it's not really good for the program to have ineligible people on the team. So I think we need to look at our procedures for that, because who knows if someone from outside our district can get on a sports team or what if we don't follow these procedures properly. I just want to just put my 2 cents in as far as the budget. It's good that we're going to potentially get the increase that's in the governor's budget or something better, and the fact that the tax cap is a little higher, that could be a double-edged sword. When it's 2%, it looks good, but if the rate of inflation is higher than that, then you're actually losing. I guess the rate of inflation is 2% this year, so it's sort of a wash. So that's not too bad. I would advocate for when comes time to actually start throwing money into the budget. What's as far as our where we're getting our income from. Let's look at our reserves. We always take some money from reserves, and that's going to run out at some point, and so we have to be careful with that, especially since the state is running like a $4 billion deficit, and so that's going to catch up at some place, and at some point they're going to be looking for ways of saving money so that they can make up their deficit. And school districts' money is always one of those places that potentially they could take away from us. And finally, I always wanted to be on Jeopardy, but I figured I could never, ever be able to answer in the form of a question. So this is a good opportunity. So I would say, if the board would like to have a team, we could certainly do that. So I'd be interested if anyone else wants to also do it as well.
I have a conflict with the Glenna PTO, but if nobody else comes, I will totally be on a board team.
Well, maybe you could be maybe if they're not all going to be on at the same time, maybe you can be on 2 teams.
I'm a ringer for pop culture.
Yeah, and since it's up to 10 people, we we have 11 people. I'm counting I'm counting you two over there, students. If you want to be in our team too, you know. I'm weak on current pop music, for example. So we could probably use a younger perspective as well in certain areas. So I'd be more than happy to have any other member of the board who would like to form a team. I'd be happy to be part of that. That's it for me.
All right. Greg?
Okay, I'm going to split myself in two tonight because I'm doing double duty. I'll give you my own thoughts and comments, and then I'll pinch hit for Mr. Rutkowski, who is traveling for work and cannot be with us, who normally reports on Facilities and Operations Committee. So for my own comments on the budget presentation, I'm glad to see that we're off and running and doing what we're doing now. It's a little sooner than in the past, and it is a little sooner for some of the news to come out of Albany to be as good as it is. It's a little better than I expected, but I know how Albany works, and we cannot count our chickens until they are actually signed, sealed, and delivered. It may be that some of the politicians have been responding to a lot of the lobbying that has been done in past years. You know, it's sort of like what the cheerleaders say, we're for public education and no one could be prouder. If you cannot hear us yet, we'll yell a little louder. And if you keep yelling every year, maybe the message gets through by degrees. And what is sought statewide is about another $1.5 or $6 billion beyond what has been proposed. So it seems to ratchet up a little bit each year, but we're still trying to come out of a hole that was caused by the Great Recession, and we've had some progress, but we're going to have to keep pushing for more. I'm a little disappointed that only one of the legislators showed up at this breakfast. We've seen this before. Last year I did one of those trips to Albany, and we got to talk to one of the legislators that we wanted to see and a bunch of aides. So I think those aides get put on the cooker pretty regularly by people who are doing lobbying. And I wonder if the legislators are ducking us or they actually have all these other things that they're supposedly doing. In my inbox, I get something each week from Dr. Sieverding at the high school, who provides a number of items of commentary each week to the high school community, to anybody that wants to sign up for it. And I saw this, which really impressed me. I'll just read it. The Beacon High School Band is part of a consortium that commissioned a world-famous composer-conductor, Sean O'Loughlin, to write a new piece for concert band. The score arrived signed by the composer and with a thank you note to Mr. Head, Peter Head, for being a part of the project. When the piece is released for mass distribution, Beacon High School, along with the 9 other schools in the consortium, will be listed on the front page of the score. The world premiere of the piece will be in early March, followed shortly by a premiere by the Beacon High School Band a week later. This is out of the blue. I never heard this was in the works, but I'm very impressed and pleased. Another little note on the food side, Common Ground Farm donated over 1,000 pounds of lettuce and other organically grown produce to our cafeterias in 2017. And over 2,100 Beacon students participated in the Farm to School programming last year. Common Ground Farm is a community-based organization that makes its home at Stony Kill Farm and has grown considerably in its capabilities in recent years. That's another very good community connection. I did attend a couple of those budget sessions that Dr. Landau has been conducting with staff around the district, including the one with Beacon Arts and Education Foundation and Beacon Advocates for Music, and one at South Avenue School. And what's interesting is that some of these sessions are beginning to sound like capital project round 2, because people are offering ideas about what should be done with the buildings and the facilities, which is fine, because in fact, some of these items are ones that could potentially be addressed under operating budgets and operating staff in the nearer term. We, at the Facilities and Operations Committee, we had a good meeting, And the report was given that the architect's firm has had people visiting some of our schools, South Avenue and Sargent so far, and the 2 facilities at Hammond Field, along with engineering personnel. This is another phase of the project where they start to do the quality check and take a good closer look as a part of their process of trying to develop what will eventually become potential specifications and plans. The rest of the schools will be covered in turn. We have a meeting set with the architect and the financial advisor. We have a company that does financial advice, including things like making sure that we know what the degree of state aidable will be for all the projects we have in mind. Dr. Landville is going to be developing a timeline regarding the turf field project, the artificial turf field, and this will be eventually put on the website. We had some community input. These meetings, by the way, are open to the public, just as the board meetings are. We had a member of the public who's not a member of the board come in and offer some thoughts relating to the turf field. That kind of led to the decision that we're going to come up with a formal timeline and how we examine this issue and the checkpoint steps along the way. Mr. D'Amato, A.J. D'Amato, is a regular attendee at these meetings and updates us on what's happening with things in the near term around the district. We've been so far fairly fortunate with the winter, had a couple of big storms, but no big issues resulting from that. We had a nice discussion about sustainable solutions in dealing with energy. We have a couple of consultants that we're in touch with to see if we can get some more feedback from them on kind of programs and so on that are available that we might be able to take advantage of. We're looking at coming up with an electronic suggestion box. I think the physical suggestion box idea came up and sort of morphed into, well, let's do it online. We're in the early stages of figuring out exactly what we do with the 5-year development plan. These are expected of us by the state, so we're looking into some sample examples of that. And also, Mr. D'Amato reported that all the results of water sampling for lead have been remediated and retested, which was required and found to be satisfactory. So the results and explanations have been posted on the website. Here's one of the most interesting items. We're actually studying what to do about goose control, including possibly bringing in an outfit that chases them away with border collies. Now, I don't know if any or all these things are going to happen, but anyway, that's what we're looking at.
Thank you for a thorough detail. Kristen, are we well?
Yeah, we're well. The Wellness Committee meeting is on January 25th at the high school, 4 p.m. This seems to be something that there's an expanding interest that it seems to be from the community that seems to be falling under the wellness umbrella. Right now on our agenda, we're planning for the elementary family fitness night, but I think people are planning on coming to talk about our policy for recess and cold weather. There's been more involvement in a subcommittee formed related to quality of lunches, and there's one other thing I can't remember. Oh, well, the ongoing issue of the policy.
I think it's the 24th.
24th? Oh, I don't know.
Wednesday.
Oh, thank God.
The meeting's the 24th?
Okay. Oh, wait, no, I did have it on the 24th. Okay, sorry. It's the 24th. Yeah, okay. No, totally. Let's see. Okay, so yeah, 24th, 4 o'clock. Yeah, there's the last meeting. There started a discussion around our policy in reference to recess and cold weather, a subcommittee on quality of lunches, and we have some the planning to do for the elementary family fitness night, and now we have the ongoing issue of the policy. Related to facilities and operations, I had forwarded to members of the committee a presentation that is from a BOCES upstate, and they have a dedicated energy manager as a part of that BOCES that's shared among several several districts and the costs associated with having that person. In today's SUNY State of New York State Schools address from the new chancellor of the New York State universities, they designated an energy manager for every campus because of the costs associated with providing energy for all of those buildings. So it seems to be a trend that's worth looking into, mostly because getting our costs down, in addition to looking forward to state aid, but any opportunities to get our costs down would be something we should think about. I, at the Dutchess County School Board's legislator meeting, talked to Dr. Hooley. I've already forwarded him that presentation, and I asked if it's possible, if it's a service that's not provided by our BOCES, if it's something we can source outside of the district, and he said it is possible. So just trying to move that ball downfield. In relation to the Dutchess County School Boards Association legislators breakfast, I know it's been well covered by everyone else who attended. The focus of the presentations was on equity, and I think the subtext was the reality, and as it relates to the reality of unfunded mandates, the reality of policies that are created with good intentions but designed poorly, and the impacts that those have accumulatively on districts, the reality of the state aid formula design and how some aspects of it are obsolete, and how that exacerbates the economic divide, which is not really the intention, as well as freezing of foundation aid. I know that it was disappointing to people that we didn't have more legislators there. I actually wasn't as upset by that. Staff is important, and as long as they hear what we're saying. I thought the best benefit that came out of that was meeting people from other districts and hearing their stories and hearing the things that they face. It just seems like the main commonality is that there's a lot of issues that are, even in vastly different districts, the same, and those seem like areas that we could really come together and lobby around. And as we know, like, it's definitely something that we have to be a bit relentless about to be heard. I mean, I definitely collected cards, and I think it's something that we should start hammering away at those folks because, at some point they might listen. And that's it.
All right, thank you. Georgia, how's policies going?
Well, our policy committee meeting was canceled last Thursday, so we do need to schedule another date. So I'll send out an email to see if there's dates available in the next few weeks.
We do have diversity, and I think Kenya was going to do policy on the 8th. If you wanted to piggyback off of that, we could do it right after diversity.
I can do the 8th.
Okay. It'd be late.
I know.
It's like 9:30.
It would be after diversity is at 8:15. Yeah.
9:30.
We have no 9:30 meetings. That's bananas.
All right, you can look at.
There was a 9:30 meeting scheduled last
We were doing
time.
that the other day until like 10 o'clock. We were going all day, Georgia.
No, it's a little snow.
10:15, that's what we were.
I'm just kidding.
All right, so you're gonna send out an
Yes,
email?
I'll send out an email with some dates.
Okay, anything else?
No, I'm sorry, I was late.
All right, the most anticipated, Annie or Noah? Who are we gonna go first?
Well,
Noah,
like
Annie go first.
like Dr. Lennon said, our survey is complete and ready to go out to the students, which I think Dr. Sieberling said will be sent out next week. And this survey is basically just asking them what classes they would like to see as far as languages, electives, and AP courses go. And then if this survey goes well, and we get a lot of feedback, we'll probably be sending out more surveys about different topics, and definitely hearing the students more. The students in high school have definitely come to Annie and I a lot more since hearing about us on the board. So we are hearing a lot of issues they have, and looking forward to working on those and seeing what we can do.
Great.
Yeah, so everything Noah said. Just to add on to the steps towards the turf field, I know that a lot of students talk about that, so they'll definitely be happy to hear about that.
Great, thank you. Good job. Kenya? Are we safe? Safety committee meeting update?
So we have a safety committee meeting scheduled for February the 5th at 9 a.m. at the board office. We will also have public relations on February 8th from 7 to 8 p.m. So I kept looking at my phone because I was getting an update. So the seniors of Beacon High School are going on a senior trip, and the committee is working hard to get funds. Mr. Yakavone and the senior advisors are doing a great job, and the PTO is supporting their efforts. So on February 23rd, we will be having the Wizards come, and that fundraiser will assist the seniors with expenditures. And we're looking for some excited teachers to participate on a teacher team. And so they're asking that if there are any teachers interested, to please reach out to Kim Lennon or Dottie from the middle school. We know that everyone is going to run for this opportunity, so we ask that you call them or get in touch with them quickly so that you can be one of the teachers considered. The senior class also had a lip sync contest on Friday, and they made over $1,600. And they plan to do a Mr. BHS and some other fundraisers to support their efforts. The Wizards are on February 23rd at 7 p.m. and those teachers that are interested in participating have to be at the school at 6:15. I just want to congratulate the wrestling team again. Durrani Haynes is a member of the church that I attend, and once again they were competing, and he came in 3rd overall, and there was a large number of athletes there. And his mother gave some very inspiring words on social media. Also, gave some kudos to the coaches, and congratulated them for their efforts. And so, through her post, she pretty much stated that not always when you start out with something you are the best at it, but if you are consistent with it, then you actually see your full potential. And so I always try to tell the youth that you may not be the best now, but if you apply yourself, the best is yet to come. So her post was greatly appreciated. It magnifies what I teach my children and any child that I come in contact with. I just have a few requests for updates. I have not heard anything on Naviance, and I just wanted to know where we are with that, because it has been a long time coming. So if we have information on Naviance, I would appreciate that. What is the status of Grow Your Own, and how many students are enrolled in that program? How is that progressing? And I also wanted to know, because I think that there was a boundary issue here with this, and I don't want to overstep my boundary, but I would like to know who's responsible for reviewing the after-school programs that exist at the high school right now, whether those programs are programs that are being pretty much students are participating in those programs. I've asked in the past for attendance records, and it seems that I may be treading on ground that doesn't belong to me. However, I have a strong belief in keeping kids actively engaged in activities, and if there are activities that exist that they have no interest in, then we should reassess those things and afford them the opportunity to be engaged in things of interest. So if someone can tell me whose job that is to figure that out, I would gladly step down once I get all the information I'm asking for. I also wanted to just know the status on the Black History Month celebrations that have existed. I know the Diversity Committee had moved forward with an interest on what was happening for Black History Month or cultural celebrations. It doesn't just have to be Black History Month, but I know that I had presented some information, and I just wanted to know where we were with those things. Thank you.
Alrighty.
Do I get an answer today or no?
I'm not gonna be able to rattle off answers to all those, but I think the board certainly can look at participation rates for both sports and clubs, so we can compile that. The Black History Month celebrations I'll include in a board update. And Naviance and Grow Your Own, we could do that in a board update as well.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Can give you a quick little update, but we'll do more detail. Naviance, the trainer came and worked with the entire staff, worked her second day with our guidance staff on the second Monday of January. I'm gonna say January 8th is the date, if I'm correct. It was. So they spent the day with guidance, deepening that, and then provided an overview training to our entire staff at the faculty meeting later that afternoon. The guidance counselors, as they begin the work of planning forward, are going to be speaking about Naviance in classes, but that's where I'll get you some more details about that. But it is in full motion. Accounts for students we're in a process of being finalized up through then, and it's going to begin utilization both at the middle school and the high school.
Thank you.
Good. All right, I'd first like to, my first comment goes to the Donna Peterson Pink Out basketball game. I'd just like to thank O'Neill High School for their sportsmanship and support, as well as Lords. They both wore the pink shirts in support of Donna. I thought that was very classy by both schools to contribute and support in that way. Mr. G. Meta did a really good job putting together a halftime dedication with the family involved, calling them down to half court. So it was really touching, and I think it meant a lot to the family. And it was nice that the community could pull together to show the support and so forth for the family. So I thought that was a really nice event, and I just wanted to commend O'Neill High School as well as Lords for the support that they showed as well. They were very classy. I heard a rumor that the technology plans are going to be they have to be all revised because they're going more towards the academic piece and not so much about the counts and stuff. So I was going to ask Anthony if you could, not the smart bond. Every district is going to have to revise. I've heard.
Just the technology plan.
Right, there's
That
a
came up at
district has the technology
the
plan.
legislators meeting. I think somebody brought that up. I didn't understand what it was about at the time, but yeah.
We talked about revising the technology plan at the last technology meeting to align more with the board goals. So, but I need more information about that.
Yeah, I believe there's an outline that the state has for the revisions that have to be included.
Sure.
So that's something that just be aware of with the technology piece that should be coming through the technology committee as to how to revise the plan and stuff. I know there was one 2 years ago that you guys revised, but it was more of the counts, computer counts and so forth, where it's going to be going more towards the educational piece. And that's going to be part of the revision, so just be on the lookout for that for the technology committee. I just want to give an update on the work that I've been doing for the board retreat. So I reached out to the three people, Skip Wiseman, Chip Wood, and Joe Bridewell. Actually, I tried to reach out to Chip, but I didn't get a hold of him yet. It was my fault. I think I called and I hung up on him. And then I got pulled away. So I'm going to reach out again this week, and I should have more specific information with all three about board retreats and specificity at the next board meeting. So I followed through, but I didn't follow through with fidelity yet with all three of them. I'm very excited to hear about the curriculum work, Mr. Wright. I think that that's something that has to be sustained and systemic, and I'm hoping that it could be a culture of, I heard through the presentation, fourth grade, that, they were trying to pull time here and there to get together to do it. It'd be nice if it was set up to be systemic, planned, and they meet 2-3 times a year so they could develop it, because what I was hearing, it was like for the first couple units, but to have it for the whole, fourth grade curriculum would be nice and stuff. So, in all grades, so I'm hoping that work continues. So I was very excited. I think it's a step in the right direction. That was it. I feel like I'm forgetting something. Alrighty. Unfinished business. There was a discussion item added of 10.02, discussion about city council. So that goes into kind of what we were discussing last board meeting. It was discussed that we would be meeting with him tonight at 6 o'clock. However, when Dr. Landahl reached out, they said that they weren't available, I believe. So we need to kind of formalize how we want to go about it. So, anybody want to open up that discussion?
I mean, my feeling is that if we introduce ourselves, I know they're having a workshop this coming Monday, and I think I have a conflict, but if we can, there are going to be times where they have a workshop that we're free, and if we can come in and just do kind of like a meet and greet and maybe have a preliminary discussion on what we potentially will talk about, and then from that meeting, maybe make an agreement that we should split up into form some sort of a municipal school board work group or something like that. I kind of feel though that they should be, it would be some benefit similar to how folks network at the legislative breakfast, that there'll be some usefulness to network with our current city council members and town fiscal board members as well.
I think that I think developing a relationship with them is important with all the municipalities. I think the short-term goal is just to really communicate the realities of our budget and how the decisions that are being made on a city government level impact the schools and then will ultimately impact taxpayers. So I think that we could schedule something down the road where we have more of a meet and greet and summit, but I'm fine with a few people so we don't have to worry about a quorum, and I don't think it's going to be such a, I don't think it should be a back and forth. I think it really should just be spelling out, sort of walking through a process that we're going through right now, almost similar to the budget meetings we have. Instead of brainstorming, really communicating the realities that our school district faces specifically, but also there are things across the board that school districts face. And so I think that discussion, I don't know if it's ever historically happened, and so I think it's something that should start, and that should just be the one piece. I don't have any preference about who attends. Whoever's available as soon as possible, just as long as it's Dr. Landau probably and Anne Marie, if they could go just to walk through the details of the budgeting, and then just have one or two board members present. I think it would just be an important thing to put on the radar. A lot of these things are moving so quickly.
I agree.
I agree also. I also want to mention we had sent a letter to the Beacon Planning Board, and we talked about also doing it for Fishkill. Probably should also do it for Wappingers. I mean, they are also part of our district. I mean, it's a smaller part of the district, so there's probably less likelihood that we'll need to meet with them on a project. But at least we want to make sure that they know that we are interested if there's going to be a development project in the portion of Wappingers that's within our district. We also would like to be, apprised of that and perhaps at least know about the dates and everything, so we can make our points to them as well. So I just don't want to leave out Wappingers as well.
Can we confirm? I mean, when we passed the resolution, we included all three municipalities. So can we just confirm if that actually went to all three municipalities? That would be, and then we could just use that as a follow-up.
Any other discussion?
I mean, I kind of don't want to. I mean, I do kind of want some action done soon. I do agree. So
I think smaller is going to happen sooner.
I mean, we do have a public relations committee on the 8th. We can see if they're available to come to that committee meeting.
This does not feel like public relations to me, but
if I know the bureaucratic system, I think if we get on their agenda for a workshop, we can have a discussion with them. I think
So would that be like a presentation?
Well, I mean,
I thought we were trying to get away from like a formal meeting setting where it's us standing at a podium and doing a PowerPoint.
I think if you, while I would agree that maybe a less formal meeting may be better for networking. It's gonna take longer to try to get them to be less formal. City Beacon is very formal in their procedures.
Maybe we could just have Anthony contact the mayor and have a discussion as to what format they would like, and we can always, I think, accommodate either one. I think we have our preferences, but if they don't have the same preferences, it might take longer to do it. So if Anthony and the mayor get together and decide on what they think is the most effective way of getting the information to them, that might work.
Yeah. I mean,
I can reach out to him.
What's that?
I can reach out to
whatever
him.
it takes for, I mean, I don't think, I think, for example, like, Bill, like at the legislators breakfast, I think there's something that people, people don't realize, like, in sort of the broader, community, that, like, that gentleman from Rhinebeck who got up and said they had 3 high needs special education students move into their district, and was it a cost of $500,000?
Yeah.
And so it took away almost half of their available balance for that year. I mean, I don't think a municipality has an equivalent of that. So, I think that, and that's not saying that there isn't a commitment to serve any student that comes into the district. It's just that that's something that's always a possibility. So limiting our unknowns is critical for us, and having a heads up and planning in whatever ways we have any control over is much more helpful. And I just don't think that there is, that's something I certainly wouldn't have understood before I was on the board, and I think that that's just not something that's, people are aware of. And that's an extreme scenario, but it's something that, just to explain the realities of things, we have to think about and be prepared for.
Yeah, well, that's a much wealthier district.
Yeah.
We want to make our worries their worries.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Because they are. We have the same taxpayers.
Well, I think,
so it is.
Absolutely, that I think that they should hold the district as, some feeling of responsibility for it, and it will be, I think, easier to do if they understand what we face, and also what are the long-term plans that we're starting to put together, and in general, like, just involve them more in our process.
So basically, the notes that I have here is that we want to develop a relationship, we want communication realities of the budget and the impact on the taxpayers. There was a proposal of getting it out for the agenda, but Bill said if I could reach out to Mayor Casal, kind of see what type of communication or meeting would work best for the city council to get that input before we start going forward.
Right, but do they prefer something formal or I think we might want to let them know that our preference would be to have an initial meeting that's informal and just a couple of people rather than our board and their board. But, we'll just feel them out as to what he thinks would be appropriate and effective and quick.
And if you want to frame it in a way that's familiar to him, you can say what this is based on former Councilwoman Ross.
Right.
And her suggestion that a working group develop, and that she had identified that this was an important issue for the 2 entities to resolve.
Okay. No. Sorry. Any other discussion on it? All right. Seeing none, we're going to move to the consent agenda. And what I'll do is after I make contact, I'll email you guys the update on that. All right, so the consent agenda. The use of the consent agenda permits the Board of Education to make more effective use of its time by adopting a single motion to cover those relatively routine matters which are included. Any member of the board who wishes to discuss individually a particular piece of business on the consent agenda may so indicate, and the item will be considered and voted on separately, thus preserving the right of all board members to be heard on any issues. Is there anything on the consent agenda that a board member would like to hold? Hearing none. Hearing none, I need a motion to approve the consent agenda 11.01 through 11.09.
Motion.
Second.
Georgia, and a second by Kristen. Comments or questions? I'd just like to say for 11.08, that is with thanks. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. 8-0. Go right ahead.
So that vote just means that we appointed Nikki Allen to be our working foreman.
I just want to say thank you guys. I'm looking forward to working with them, each and every one of you, establishing a relationship. It seems like you guys have a handle on a lot of the great things that's coming into Beacon, and it feels like a pleasure to be a part of this. I'm honored. Thank you.
Thank you. We think you're going to be a strong addition to the team. So,
Thank you.
welcome aboard. All right. I need a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
So Georgia, then Kristen. Comments or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. 8-0. 9:31.